One of the greatest to ever hit in the history of this sport. Take a look at this list. It's a very short list. We're talking Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Stan the Man, and George Brett to hit 300 or better, 300 more home runs, 3,000 or more hits in the history of the sport. Albert Pujols right there on the line with a 300 average on the nose, and he's got more time left on his contract. Welcome back to MLB Tonight, everyone. We are so excited to welcome in Hall of Famer George Brett, who's kind enough to join us on his birthday. So, George, first and foremost, happy birthday, man. And other than hanging with us, what do you have in store on your big birthday?
Well, with the coronavirus going on, I basically do the same thing every day. I get up about 6:30, try to do the crossword puzzles in the newspaper, the Ken, the Sudoku, read the paper, take my dog on a 3 or 4 mile walk. I've been playing a lot of golf, but the last 3 weeks I haven't played because I pulled a hamstring playing golf, ironically. But it's one of those things that the range is closed, and I slammed the trunk of my car because they won't let you store your clubs at the golf course anymore. So I put them on. I walked to the first tee, took one practice swing, took a swing, and grabbed my left hamstring and went down. And so I might go out and try to play 9 holes this afternoon, but it's the same old stuff. I walk my dog, I try to work out, and I barbecue something almost every night.
Hey, George, it's Dan. To make you feel younger, you go back to 1974. You hit your first big league home run off of Fergie Jenkins. What do you remember about it?
I'm pretty sure it was in the old ballpark in Texas. And when I mean the old ballpark, it wasn't the old one because they just put the new one in this year. And the old one was, I think they started to play in 94. My last game was at the old stadium there. And I don't remember much about it. I don't remember the score of the game, but I do remember hitting a home run, the first one off Ferguson Jenkins. And it was, he's a Hall of Fame pitcher. He had a great career leading up to that and had a great career after that. So to get your first home run off somebody that was well known as him, it was a pretty big thrill.
You know what's crazy, George, is that you're 67 years old when you look as young as you do, and you're like a childhood hero of mine. But the number that's even more eye-popping to me, 50 years with the Kansas City Royals organization. But when someone tells you you've been in one organization for 50 years, what comes to mind?
Loyalty. I mean, I signed with them the day after I graduated school, was in the major leagues 2.5 years later. You sign a couple 1-year contracts, then they trusted me at a very early age to give me a 5-year contract. About 3 years after signing that, they came up and they said, we'd love to give you a 5-year extension. So I did that. About 4 years go by, they give me another 5-year extension. So they showed a lot of loyalty in me and trust in me. And I trusted the organization. Now, would I have stayed in this organization if they were bottom feeders and never making the playoffs? Probably not, because every player wants to play on a world championship team. And when I came up in 74, the Oakland A's were the World Series champions. 75, they were the World Series champions. We beat them in 76, lost to the Yankees in a tough series. Went to the playoffs again in 77, lost to the Yankees in the last game of the playoffs again. Played the Yankees in 78, lost to the playoffs again. 79, we didn't make the playoffs, but I think we only lost our division by 2 games, and then won the division in 80, 81, 84, and won the World Series in 85. And that's right when I signed that last contract. So, if we were coming in last place every year, I probably wouldn't have signed the second extension, but I did because here we're in the playoffs almost every year. And I thought after 85, we would be in again for 5 or 6, 7 years till the end of my until I retired. Unfortunately, we never got back in. 85 was our last really good run at it, and but it was still fun. And right now there's Denny Matthews, our radio announcer, who signed with the Royals in '69 and has broadcast every game since. And Art Stewart, a scout in the organization, was one of their first hires when the Royals became a team in '69. So I'm the 3rd longest tenured employee of the Royals, and I'm pretty proud of that. I really am.
That's great.
You lead right now at Kansas City Royals in pretty much every single offensive category, and you did it with a very peculiar a stance. You used to lean back on your back leg. I want to know, what was your approach at the plate? Where do you get that stance from? And, who do you model that sweet swing after? I'm ready. You just go ahead.
Okay.
Start taking notes.
I never hit 300 in the minor leagues. I hit 290 in rookie league, 270 in A league, and from that I went to AAA, which I don't understand, but held my own there. I hit 282. Got called up to the major leagues for a short time. Third baseman Paul Shaw sprained his ankle, so they brought me up. I played the first 2 games and went 1 for 4 in each game, and then I didn't play the rest of the time. Paul Shaw came off the disabled list 2 weeks later. They sent me down, called me up at the end of the season as a September call-up. I ended up hitting 125 that year. The next year, they traded Paul Shaw, and about 2 or 3 weeks into the season, they brought me up and basically let me play third base. At the All-Star break, I was hitting 200 with, I think, 1 home run, and it just wasn't pretty. And Charlie Lau was our hitting coach, and he just sat there and watched and watched and watched. And I remember the All-Star break in '74, he came up to me in Cleveland and said, I want to sit next to you on the plane and pick your brain a little bit. I said, okay, fine, let's do it. And we talked, and he just said, look, I'm one of the only coaches that think you have a future in Major League Baseball, but you're going to have to change some things. And so the first thing he did, I went from hitting like Carl Yastrzemski in 1967. I used to stand straight up, held my bat straight up in the air. More of a back leg swinger, never had a weight shift, didn't get arms extended very often. And the first thing he did, moved me off the plate. He got my bat more parallel to the angle which the ball was going to come in. I had a bad habit of wrapping my bat around my head, which made my swing real long. So we couldn't get that bat wrap out. So he just said, put the bat on your shoulder. So I put my bat on my shoulder so I couldn't wrap it around my head and moved me off the plate. He got me to lean back, have a nice load with my lower half, get extension through the ball, and thank God he did, because 20 years later I was still playing in the major leagues and made it to the Hall of Fame. And I really don't think I would have made it to the Hall of Fame or played 20 years if it wasn't for Charlie Lau. He taught me an awful lot about hitting.
Great stuff.
George, the Pine Tar game, Tim McClellan, he come out of the dugout. Have you ever been that mad? Were you surprised you could get that angry on a baseball field?
I'd get mad once in a while, but 2 minutes later I was laughing. I mean, after this, it took me about 20 minutes later to laugh it off. But it was, I remember running around the bases and then seeing Billy Martin out of the corner of my eye as I was going back to the dugout. And I'm sitting in the dugout, and I think I was sitting next to Frank White, and he said, they might call you up for using too much pine tar. And I swear to God, I just got out of my mouth saying, if they call me out for using too much pine tar in a bat, a rule I've never heard of, I'll run out there and I'll kill one of those SOBs. And as soon as I said that, McClellan turns to me and he's looking for me in the dugout. He's scoping the dugout. He goes, here you are, you're out. And I flew out of there. I don't even think I hit the steps. I think I went from the ground to the field, because I saw the video right there. I mean, it was amazing. And I'll tell you something funny. I got a bat. I'll show you this bat that I got.
This is awesome.
This was a bat I used my last year playing, and I gave it to Mike Boddicker. It's got a little crack in it. This bat right here is 10 times worse than that bat was. And as you can see the label right here, I mean, that stuff caked on. You can still see my fingerprints here. But Mike Boddicker brought the bat over, and he wanted me to sign it. And I got it in my hand, and I'm just going, oh, my God, this is unbelievable. And he could tell that I don't have any game-used bats of mine, real ones. And so I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm going, oh, my God. He said, well, if you want to keep it, keep it. And I said, well, how about this? I'll make a trade. Every year we go to Cooperstown. Everybody, all the Hall of Fame players sign a bat, and then they mail you one shortly after you get home. I had a Hall of Fame bat here from about 3 or 4 years ago. It had 60 Hall of Fame signatures on it. I said, here, I'll trade you. He said, you got a deal.
That is so good. I love it. George, before we let you go, we're airing the Pine Tar game here on MLB Network, along with a few other games that you played in. 50 years from now, if a baseball fan wants to watch George Brett's 3 favorite games he ever played in, and you could rank them and we could watch them, what would George Brett's 3 favorite games be?
The Pine Tar, for one, because it showed my desire to win and the intensity which I played with, but I still had a lot of fun. I think, obviously, that third game of the playoffs, that was the best game I've ever played in my life against the Toronto Blue Jays, being down 2-0 and just having, I mean, I made a play that I've never even practiced before. And, you know, the one thing I regret about that game, and I always prided myself, Dan, and you played against me, is hustling and trying to take extra bases. My second at-bat in that game still haunts me. I still have nightmares about that because I hit a home run off Doyle Alexander my first at-bat. My second at-bat, I hit one. I thought I hit it good, but my arms weren't quite extended at contact, but I still thought I hit it good enough. And I didn't run hard out of the box. And Jesse Barfield, the right fielder, jumps up, no outs in the third inning, I think it was. Fourth inning. It was the bottom of the fourth inning. And he jumps up, barely misses it. I should have been standing at third base. It should have been a triple. It was only a double. And that still haunts me to this day. I am so embarrassed to watch that at bat. Thank God my teammates, Hal McRae and Frank Wright, I think Hal McRae got me over and Frank White got me in with a sacrifice fly. We ended up winning that game by 1 run. And then if we would have lost that game, we would have been down, 3-0. And but those guys picked me up. I was able to score the winning run in the bottom of the 8th inning and on a single after I got a single. But that really haunts me to this day. And I think the other one, even though it wouldn't be a good game, would just be the World Series when we won the World Series in '85. We won 11-0. Yeah. It wasn't that good of a game to watch after a while. It was pretty intense for about the first 4 or 5 innings. But that's just one that you'll never forget. Just seeing that clip right there, I mean, I'm starting to get goosebumps right here. And Dan, did you ever win a World Series, Dan?
Never won a World Series.
I mean, the feeling is just incredible because I don't care if you were Brett Saberhagen, the Cy Young Award winner that year, I think he was, the MVP of the World Series. I don't care if you were Buddy Biancalana or Onyx Concepcion or Greg Pryor or the clubhouse kid. When you got in that locker room after the game, everybody had that same exact feeling that we're world champions. And that's what's so special about the Chiefs this year winning the Super Bowl, the Royals in 15, us in 85, whoever's going to win the World Series this year if we ever get back to playing, that they'll never forget that feeling. They'll never, ever forget it. And that's why those are the 3 games I would probably watch.
Well, I'm not going to forget this interview. This was a gift to us, George, on your birthday. So thanks for your time, George Brett. And once again, happy birthday, buddy.